listen, I don't want any more bullshit.
Yeah, what's up, bullshit-free gang? Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Let me tell you something. You know, there's a tendency, I think, a temptation, when you see a beatdown and a domination so fucking complete and total against a clearly bad team. I mean, the Texans are bad, right? They were bad last year with Deshaun Watson. This year, without him, they are just dreadful. Probably the worst roster in the league. But I think that causes a problem. There's a temptation to downplay what we just watched the Colts do to them because of how bad they are and because of this narrative that people have kind of latched on to that, oh, the Colts are only good against bad teams. But, you know, since there's not a whole lot to really discuss about this game, let's get into that narrative, because here's what I think is really going on with this Colts team. While a lot of people are still doubting them and downplaying them and talking about, well, you know, they only beat teams that are bad, they can't beat any good teams, I think people are missing something. Because the truth of the matter is, it's not that they can't beat any good teams. As a matter of fact, you go through the whole year, after the first 3 games, they've literally, on paper, beaten all the good teams they played. They've just found ways to beat themselves during those particular games. But you look at the games and the scores and how they played out. Not only were they in each game, it's not like they were losing, 20-8 or 35-14. Not only were they in each game, but they were in position to win each game, in many cases up double digits in those games. So the narrative, I think, is definitely askew when it comes to the Colts. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but what I am saying is you can't say they won't. They have the stuff they need. They're lacking like every other team in the NFL in some places. But I think if you really objectively look at what we're seeing, especially the last 7 to 10 games, something is going on here. And we're going to jump right into it and talk about it. What does this mean right now, and especially going forward over the last 4 games of this season and hopefully into the playoffs? What is the Colts ceiling this year? We're going to talk about it. But before we do, let me be the great host that you love for me to be and welcome you back, or if it's your first time, welcome you to the NFL's #1 uncensored football podcast, the one and only, often imitated but never duplicated, often hated by these corny ass haters, the world famous, always entertaining, always controversial, and always uncompromisingly straight, no chaser, it is what it is, the bullshit-free Colts podcast. The only podcast on this planet, my friend, where you can hear all things worth talking about when it comes to our beloved Indianapolis Colts. But here, baby, unlike every other podcast and media outlet out there, here, baby, you get it with no coach speak, no PR, no spin, no political correctness, and most importantly and most enduringly, 100% without any fucking bullshit. I'm your host, Harkan Ajala, at your motherfucking service as always. And let's jump into looking at this good old-fashioned Southern beatdown the Colts put on the Texans, a 31-0 shutout. And as crazy as it sounds, it wasn't even that close. Not only was this total domination, but let's look at it briefly, but more importantly, put it into context in terms of what it means. Like, what kind of team are the Colts? What is their ceiling? What can they do in this AFC and in these playoffs if they get in with the rest of the NFL, against the rest of the NFL? How do they stack up? The great thing about when you get this far into the season, Colts have got 13 games down with 4 to play. The great thing when you get this far into the season is it's like you've entered the second turning, is the way I like to call it. See, so the first 2 or 3 games, every fucking year this happens. We get 3 games in, you got some teams that are 3-0, and these stupid motherfuckers nationally start talking about teams that are Super Bowl favorites and teams that are looking like the class of the NFL. Are you fucking kidding me? I'll just have you cast your mind back a little ways, my friend, just a few weeks, when the fucking Carolina Panthers were 3-0. And yes, some of these dumb fucks nationally were talking about the Carolina Panthers as a Super Bowl contender, and Sam Darnold is, this is just proof that Sam Darnold is a good, solid quarterback. It was just the Jets. Well, hold on a minute there, Forrest. Right? Because here we are, week 13, and, the Carolina Panthers are trash, as they were last year and as I expected them to be, based on, not because I hate them or anything, but based on reality, based on objective reality if you're actually looking. And I'm not a Carolina Panthers fan, but I've probably seen more of them play than a lot of these national pundits. See, a lot of these national pundits, these fuckers don't watch whole games. They're watching the fucking NFL Red Zone and getting notes from their producer and production assistants in Google Docs to tell them like what narratives they should talk about in each game. They're picking up stats here and there and trying to form a narrative of the entire game, trying to form a story that describes an entire game that they never fucking watched. And even worse, trying to use that fucking minuscule amount of information to actually tell you, give you a read on who and what these NFL teams are. Is stupid as fuck. All I know is that the Detroit Lions have only won one game. I have no idea what kind of team they are. I haven't watched them. I don't know why they're losing. I don't know how they've lost all those games. You see what I'm saying? So I can't really judge them as a team. You can't effectively and objectively and, worth a damn, really have any judgment on a team unless you've actually really followed and watched every game and every play of every game. And you're really following what's been happening with their injuries, with their rookies, with their new players. How are people, new coaching moves, new systems being put in. You got to have all that to really know what's going on with the team. So that's why, I don't try to even act like I know a lot about any of these teams out here except fucking one, the Indianapolis Colts. That team I know quite a bit about because I follow every game, every play, what's happening behind the scenes, what's happening on the practice field. I have some sources to inside the team itself. Not no fucking deep throat shit. I ain't Adam Schefter. Right, I'm not blowing agents and giving hand jobs to people that work in the equipment room to get inside information. But I got a few sources. My point is I'm plugged in, so I know what the fuck's going on. And not only that, but I have another gift. Even though I am a 100% bleeding blue, die-hard Colts fan, I have the gift for objectivity. It's just something I was born with. I can be 100% objective. I can look at them with cold reason, cold rationality, and say what they are or are not. Period. Regardless of how I feel or how I want it to be. I can look at it as it is. So this is why I'm qualified to give you an enlightened view that you can't get anywhere else. And I'm not saying that out of ego or cockiness or any shit like that, though, I've been known to be cocky here and there, but I'm not saying that out of ego or cockiness. I'm simply saying it because it's fact. So, when I see you guys on Twitter, when you see me on Twitter and what have you, interacting with people, I'm having fun. But unlike a lot of these other podcasters and journalists and what have you, especially podcasters, man, some of these motherfuckers are so in their feelings and so biased about who they like or who they don't like that they can't give you actual objective, useful analysis because they have their own narratives that you're trying to support. Some of these dudes are on Twitter, I'm thinking they're going to fall out with a stroke from high blood pressure. They get so fucking angry and they're calling people idiots and calling fans names because the fan disagrees with them or sees it, has a different perspective or doesn't agree with immediately their perspective or their opinion. That's whack. That shit, other than entertainment, that shit can't help you as a Colts fan. So you in the right place if you want entertaining and useful analysis about the Colts. So, with all that being said, let's jump into really talking about this game and what it means for the future of the rest of this season and even possibly beyond for our beloved Indianapolis Colts. All right, but before we do that real quick, I'm going to get this out of the way fast because I want to jump into this. You've been with me for a long time. If you're listening or watching this, or you're maybe somebody who's here for the first time, but at this point, 11 minutes in, if you're still with me, you are undoubtedly and unreservedly and undeniably a fucking pimp. So do me a favor, take your pimp-ass index finger and smash that like button down below so that the algorithm, the almighty algorithm, will share this podcast with other people who are fit to consume it and will understand and enjoy it. Other playboy, playgirl-ass, real deal Holyfield Colts fans like yourself. Okay? So make sure you smash that like button now. Share this with somebody else who you know has the mindset to enjoy it, doesn't get heart palpitations from a few curse words. I had a guy who's like, man, I love what you're doing, but could you curse a little less? I'm like, fuck no. You should probably go find another podcast, homie. I talk to my people the way I talk to my friends and family and the people I love. And that's in the Vulgate, as William Shakespeare would have said it. I speak exactly the way fans speak, without a filter and without a censor and without the, grammar police or the fucking curse police, okay? I don't give a fuck about YouTube demonetizing my videos or whatever. I don't need this to make money. This is for the fans. That's why I do this shit, for you who is listening, and I appreciate you. All right? So make sure you share this with somebody else. Make sure you subscribe so that YouTube lets you know when I make these and send them out. And if you appreciate what we're doing, there's 3 ways that you can donate down below. I appreciate anything you can give us to help us keep these going. $20, $15, $10, $5, even $1 helps. And for you real, true blue insider VIP boss level motherfuckers, because you demanded it, there is a VIP Colts bullshit free. I'm sorry, I should say it correctly. A bullshit-free Colts VIP Patreon, okay? You can click the button and join that down below and not only support us every month, but you're going to get behind-the-scenes VIP insider shit that is content nobody else really gets. All right, so that out of the way, I appreciate you doing that. Let's jump the fuck into this, or as you love to hear me say it, let's chop it the fuck up. All right, there's really no sense going over every single fucking detail of this game, so I'll just give you a basic overview of the Texans coroner report, okay, from being absolutely fucking murked and murdered on the field Sunday. I mean, basically, the Colts went in there and beat them like they stole something and then tried to sell it back to the Colts. I mean, Colts ran up 389 yards to the Texans, I think, 140. The Texans had like 80 yards total in the third quarter. It was really ugly. Jonathan Taylor ran for 143 plus yards. I think he had 35 carries or something like that. Carson Wentz had like 180 yards and a touchdown. My guy MPJ with 77 yards. The offensive line dominated, but what was most exciting about this was the shutout that was pitched by the defense. It wasn't a mirage or anything like that. They just completely shut the Texans down, including Davis Mills. And you might remember, like, Davis Mills was kind of getting his shit off the last time they played before the Colts knocked him out of the game. This time, even Tyrod Taylor was fucking horrific. He's as bad as I ever seen him look in that game. And they finally benched him in the third quarter. But when Davis Mills came in, it was more of the same. The Colts defense just wasn't having it. Kenny Moore continues to be, without a doubt, the best slot corner in the NFL and becoming one of the best cornerbacks, period. He should be a Pro Bowler. Darius, of course, is, going to the Pro Bowl. DeForest Buckner fucking better be in the Pro Bowl. Kwity Paye was bringing pressure as usual, even though he didn't get home. But pressure all day. Of course, Kamoko Toure comes up with 2 sacks, 2 good sacks, by the way. And my dude, one of the most underrated players on this defense, AQM, Al-Quadin Muhammad. I've been telling you guys whining about Danico going to the Titans. I'm not trying to say Danico wasn't a good player for us. He was, but I've been telling you guys, AQM is giving us everything that Danico gave us last year. It's just facts. You go look at it. Watch the film. Go look at the numbers. He's giving it to us. So what else really is there to say about this game? The Colts completely dominated. They ran for like 240 yards or some shit. Even after Wentz and Taylor exited the game like midway through the fourth quarter, and they brought Sam Ellinger in. He didn't do anything but hand off. And, fucking Deion Jackson ran all over him and ran for a touchdown. So they blew this team out and beat them down. And, again, while the temptation might be to write that off as well, big deal, well, let's just remember that it was just last year that this Colts team against teams like this were barely beating them. They barely beat the Texans twice last year. They lost to the Jaguars, right? And that cost them the fucking division title last year, just losing to the Jaguars in the first game, the only game the Jaguars won all year. This year, they're destroying these teams. That's the sign of a good team. But let's jump into what does this mean overall. Who is this Colts team? Because here's the thing. Like I said, I know there's this narrative out there people like to lean on because it's convenient and it's easy and it's a lazy way to have a take on the Colts, right? Kind of like the whole Carson Wentz is, he's okay. He's a good game manager type lazy ass take. That happens for a whole nother reason. I'll just take a second to address it. It's fucking hilarious to me how these people who told you Carson Wentz was broken and unfixable, he was done, he was washed up, he was a bum. It's fucking comical to me how far they are going to not just say, hey, I was wrong. Carson Wentz is playing as a top 15 quarterback right now, without a doubt. He's playing as well as some motherfuckers they'll tell you are top 10 quarterbacks. But, the narrative. So it becomes, he's doing okay. He's not hurting them. He's a good piece here and there. If he just doesn't look, he's made a couple of mistakes this year, right? 5 interceptions, one of which you should just write off because it was a throw at the end of last week's game. This dude's like 22 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions. He's got his team. He's not bad. He's a good complimentary piece. I mean, the last 10 games they've played, he's 7-3 in the last 10. Is that not leading your team to wins? I'm confused. And remember, of those 3 losses, 2 of them shouldn't have happened. Specifically, the one against Baltimore had nothing to do with Carson. He did everything he needed to do in that game, including leading them down for what should have been the game-winning field goal, except Hot Rod was hurt and he missed it. But what if you gave him that win? The Colts would be 8-5 right now. They'd be right on Tennessee's ass. And he'd be 8-2 in the last 10. But again, I'm not going to bang the drum for Carson. There's really no need to. If you're looking objectively, you see it. But I am tired of motherfuckers, hating on him, not wanting to give him his flowers. Just give him his fucking flowers that he deserves. Nobody says he's perfect. Nobody's saying he's the next Peyton Manning. But he is playing as well as the top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now, period. And, this whole team, especially locally, which is strange, is funny, is kind of suffering from the narrative issue. Remember I talked about the second turning, like that first 3 weeks, they were 0-3, so people kind of wrote them off as, yeah, they're bad, they're no good, so on and so forth. Carson Wentz is a bunch, we told you so, etc. See, now we're 13 weeks in, and now we have a second assessment that can be made. We're really starting to see who's who, because usually it's about 6 games before you can really start to see who and what teams really are. But see, another 6 games tells you for sure where teams are slotted and probably where they're going or not going this season, because by 12 games in, you've usually got, things working. If you've had new pieces or new players injected, you have teams pretty much hitting their stride one way or another, right? They're usually trending one way or another 12 games in. Well, this Colts team, you want to talk about the trends. Here's the thing. You say they can't beat winning teams. Again, I submit to you. Who have they lost to? Seattle, Los Angeles, Tennessee, the first 3. I'll give you those losses, even though they probably should have beat the Rams. But I'll give you those. But Wentz was hurt. They hadn't had time together practicing, etc., right? We know the story of that. The Baltimore game, they should have won, right? So they beat Miami 27-17. They lost to Baltimore 31-25 in overtime. We know they should have won that one. They didn't. Let's look at these last, 8 games. Okay, they destroy Houston 31-3. They destroy San Francisco 30-18. They lose to Tennessee 34-31 in overtime. Should have won that game, but again, we're not going to go back. That one Carson fucked them on. Not that first interception in the end zone. That actually worked out for him. But it's the one he threw in overtime that should have never left his hands, especially since he had other guys open for the first down. So I put that one on Carson. But then the New York Jets, they beat 45-30. It wasn't even that close. Jacksonville, they beat 23-17. Buffalo, they go to Buffalo and beat them down 41-15. Lose to Tampa Bay last week. 5 turnovers. They lose by a touchdown, 38-31. Then they blow out Houston Sunday 31-0. What do you see in common in all of those? Well, here's one thing. They scored 27 against Miami. That was week 4. They put up 25 against the Ravens. They put 31 on Houston, 30 on San Francisco, scored 31 against Tennessee, 45 against the Jets. Only 23 against Jacksonville, but then 41 on Buffalo. They put 31 up on Tampa Bay and 31 points on Houston. Does that sound like a game manager type offense? Like, this team's dropping 30 points. They're averaging 33 points over the last 10 games. That's serious shit. Again, I submit to you, they can't beat any good teams. Okay. If you want to say that, but they should have beat Baltimore. They had them up 19 points in the fourth quarter. They should have beat Tennessee. They had them. They should have beat Tampa Bay. They turned the ball over 5 times, even 4 if you don't account for the throwaway at the end. They turned the ball over 4 times and only lost by a touchdown. Had a 10-point lead at one time. So you can go with that narrative if you want to. The way I look at it is, if they stop beating themselves, making mistakes, this team's probably 9-3 right now and leading the AFC. Flat out, period. So don't get it twisted. This is a good team. And even more importantly, they are peaking right at the right time. Right at the right time. They're a threat. And if they win 3 of the next 4 games, because that's pretty much what it's going to take, right? Win 3 of the next 4 games, and I would recommend you win the AFC games. So beat the Raiders, beat the Patriots, beat the Jags. And look, you do that, they're probably in the playoffs. And there's plenty of teams that don't want to see them in the playoffs. I fucking wouldn't. If I was a fan of another team, I wouldn't fucking want to see them. This is a team that can go deep in the playoffs. And yes, yeah, if they get on a roll and don't beat themselves, they could go to the Super Bowl and win it this year. They don't have every piece in place, but they got enough pieces. They got enough pieces. You can bet your ass they got enough pieces to make a run in the playoffs. You don't blow teams out on the road by mistake. You don't luck up into, averaging 33 points a game over the last 10 or last 8 or whatever it is. You don't just luck up into that, fall into that. The ceiling on this team is high, very high. And for next season, whatever happens this season, next season, with the questions we've answered, with the pieces we've now got locked in place, the most important being that quarterback, that franchise quarterback, with another offseason working with these guys, working with Reich. Look, yeah, we need a speedy, deep threat receiver, no doubt about it. It'd be nice to have another cornerback, although Isaiah Rodgers is starting to look like the answer over there. And I challenge anybody to show me why Rock Ya-Sin's not a good, solid cornerback one right now. Not saying he's a Pro Bowler, but who's abusing him this year? It's been amazing to see the transformation from year to year. But Coach Nunge used to always say it was the 3rd year that it really clicked in for guys, especially on the defense. We're seeing that with Rock, or Lock Ya-Sin, as I like to call him now. But yeah, could they use a shutdown corner? Absolutely. Could they use another pass rusher, vicious pass rusher? Of course, who couldn't? Although I'm not so sure Kwity Paye won't be that by next year. But man, they're pretty solid on that defensive line. The offensive line, hey, do we have a question we probably got to figure out at left tackle next year? Probably so. But as bad as Eric Fisher has been at times in pass production, and make no mistake about it, in pass protection, he's been bad as fuck sometimes this year. As bad as he has been, I promise you, myopia, why am I struggling with that word? Myopia settles in. You're looking at it as a fan. You're watching just him. I'm telling you, that's pretty much how it is around the league. Most teams don't have a left tackle as good as Eric Fisher. So it is what it is there. But the rest of the line is solid as fuck. The backups are in place, solid in place. We don't even need to talk about the running game. The tight ends are looking good. I like how Granson is progressing. Like, this team is ready to roll. This should be the offseason. We'll talk about this more, but this should be the offseason that we see Chris Ballard pushing some chips in. Real talk. It's time to go for it next year. But all those things being said, the truth of the matter is that this team is a real threat right now to make some fucking noise in the playoffs. And yeah, it is realistic. I don't care what the pundits say. It's realistic. Yeah, they could go to the Super Bowl and win it this year, just like a lot of other teams. It's all up to them and how they play. And I'll tell you this, I'm really looking forward. It's going to be exciting as fuck watching what they do these next 4 games to see if they get in the playoffs and then beyond. Starting with, it's going to be fun as fuck to watch this game coming up in 2 weeks against the Hoodie, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots. That's going to tell us a lot, particularly in terms of coaching. So, y'all let me know what you think in the comments. As always, I always love reading your comments, hearing from you. Y'all funny as fuck, and you have some great insights. So let me know in the comments if you agree or if you disagree. You think, hey, Hark, you're giving them too much credit. Whatever. Let me know. To the people who are listening, and to the Colts players, coaches, and front office people who are listening and watching, because I know some of y'all do because you get at me. I'm going to sign off right now the way I always do, which is to say, you know what? We got a roll going. We're in a good groove. Let's continue to get better every week. Rest in this fucking off week. Get healthy. Clear your mind. Get ready to come back and put that stank ass whooping on the hated New England Patriots. And then from there, let's go out and win another fucking Lombardi, baby. Peace. And win another.